Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Today is the first day of this Principles of Economics lecture. The now my name is Vasanta. I've been teaching this course for about 25 years. So I'm not going to, I can't ask about your discipline, whether you have done economics before or not. Usually in the um, class, the first question is to ask you are you conversant of the economics? But this time we don't have that choice. We'll straight away we'll discuss the lesson. Right now, this economics. Before we start studying any subject, we should know the scope of the subject. What are we going to learn? What are the key concepts? Then at the after that, one by one, we discuss detailed discussion is presented. Now, today is the first lesson. We'll discuss basic concepts, basic definitions, and basic tools that we could use in analyzing economics, economies, and economic problems. Now, what is economics? Now, when we discuss economics, we can observe two types of the trends, two types of observations in any society has got. Number one, on the one hand, the resources available to any economy, any society is limited. What are the resources? They are also called factors of production. Resources. People is a resource. Machines, buildings, chairs, computers, resource. Land, resource. So in economics, we broadly classified all these resources available to any society into the four broad categories: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So the land is a resource, labor, people is a resource, capital. When you say capital, it's not the money. Capital goods, these buildings, chairs, computers, these are the capital in economics. There's a difference between when you say in the financial terms, subjects, sometimes they use the capital for money. No. Here it is the capital goods is classified as capital. Then the entrepreneurship, very important resource. Entrepreneur, who's an entrepreneur? Entrepreneur is the one who takes risk, one who conduct the business, one who take all decision regarding the what to produce, how much to produce, what the resources should be employed. He's a risk taker, in other words. Risk taker, sometimes he's a risk lover, entrepreneur. So that is also resource. Now in economy, if someone asks, can you be an entrepreneur? From me, I say, no, I can't be. I can just teach economics. Sometimes boring, right? The entrepreneurs should be able to take the risk. Therefore, that's why it's a resource. That's why it is called it's a risk, a resource. Okay. Now we discussed a little bit about the resources. Now we'll discuss wants, human wants. Layman's language, we call it wants. In economics, we use more technical term. What are the wants? We need goods, shoes, houses, cars, shirts, saris, and services. Services, medical care, air cards, laundry services, internet services. These are the resource services. Now, goods, under goods, these times we can say the face mask is must. It's a good. Prices ranging from maybe 60 rupees to some surgical gloves to 750 rupees. Now it is becoming a must for a household, not only household, for an individual. They are goods and services. Now we have to understand what is the difference between a good and a service. Good and a service. Goods are already produced. They are on the shelves. Loaf of bread, it is on the shelf. But service is not produced. When you want to go and see a doctor, you just consult him, go and see him, then you start explaining your problem. At that point, doctors start prescribing you, examining you, giving the service. Now, service is produced on demand. In other words, we call it on demand. Goods are already produced, services are produced on demand, right? For example, haircuts. The salons, haircuts are not already produced. Go there. Now, these days, the salons, there are very different arrangements. The only one person can go inside. The only 3 chairs are there outside the salon. There are only 3 persons can sit. If 4th person comes, he has to take an appointment and go back. After that, sometimes he can come. So sanitization, mask, the salon, the hairdresser has already supposed to wear the gloves, disposable gloves. Once your job is finished, just you throw it away. So highly the restrictive environment is there in the salon, haircuts. So now we know there are 2 types of wants, goods and services. We know slightly about the difference between good and the service, right? Now, now I have given this definitions of this. What is land? All those free gifts of nature, such as land, forest, minerals, commonly called natural resources, are called land. Labor. All human resources, mental and physical. That's very important. Labor, mental and physical. Yes, sir. Mental and physical, both inherited and acquired, are called labor. Mental resources. Yes. Then the labor. And the labor, all human resources, mental and physical. Mental as well as physical, tangible, both inherited and acquired, are called labor. Mental, we need love, determination, right? The devotion. These are mental resources. That's also coming under labor. Then capital. Capital, all those man-made aid to further production. Buildings, computers, such as tools, machinery, and factories, which are used up in the process of making other goods and services. Other goods and services, right? Entrepreneurship. Entrepreneur is a person who takes risk by introducing both new products and new ways of making old products. He organized the other factors of production. Resources are also called factors of production, and direct them along new lines. Also, he is responsible for business decision. In an economy, large number of economic activities, maybe millions, if you take one day or 1 hour, how many economic activities are taken place in a given period of time? All these activities, so the production activity, investment activity, consumption activity, all these millions of activities broadly can be classified into 3 groups: consumption, production, and investment. The act of transforming factors of production into goods and services is production. For example, if you take the farmer, paddy farmer, he uses all the inputs: seed paddy, fertilizer, the land, weedicide, insecticide. These are the factors of production and produce tea. He transforms factors of production into the production, FOP into the output to goods and services. That is production. Act of using goods and services to satisfy human wants, its consumption. We consume, we drink, we dance, we sleep, we eat, we play. So then these are consumption activities. So the using these goods and services to satisfy these human wants is consumption. That is consumption. Consumption means generally means layman's language, consumption, food consumption. No, consumption is a broad thing, right? Then the act of producing or purchasing goods that are not for immediate consumption is investment. That's all, not today consumption, the tomorrow's consumption. So the Using factors of production, you produce a tool. Now these days, our university graduates, very intelligent people, they produce ventilators. It's an investment product. Using local input, they produce the movable goods, computers, then the robots to examine people, examine the provide the patients. These are investment products, investment goods, right? Act of producing, purchasing goods that are not for immediate consumption, investment. That's an investment. Use these investment goods for other purposes. So you produce other goods or service to examine the patient, treat him. That is a service. To produce this service, we use these robots. Right? That is called investment. The producers produce, consumers consume, and investors invest. Right? Now these are some of the basics. Now this we said resources are limited. Factors of production limited. But human wants are unlimited. That is the conflict. The conflict between these two, limited resources and the unlimited the human wants, create certain problem, economic problem, that is called scarcity. Then now we have come to the basic definition of economics. Scarcity of resources in relation to human wants is the economics, defined as economics, subject of economy. In economics, if you go to the dictionary, there are a large number of different definitions, 5, 6 definition of the subject economics. But this is in most of the textbooks at this level, people use this definition: scarcity of resources in relation to human wants is the economy. Economics is the study of how people and society deal with scarcity. What is scarcity of resources in relation to human want? That is the economics. Now we'll come to this point. Here, 3 basic production questions. Now, because the resources are scarce, Now you can see me. Then you have the resources, limited resources. So the unlimited wants. Then the scarcity. Because of the scarcity, society has to decide, has to answer 3 basic production questions. What are these basic production questions? What goods and services to produce? Resources are scarce. They have to decide, should we produce space shuttles, planes, the ships, or should we produce basic goods and services, rice or tea, rubber, coconut, consumption goods, right? Sometimes if you go to Japan or the US, they might decide, okay, they have enough resources, they might go for other goods. But here in Sri Lanka, our resources are limited. Therefore, one good chance we have to decide what to produce. What goods and services to produce. Then second question is how to produce. How to produce these goods and services. How to produce. But when you say how to produce, you have this, you can have some production processes, more labor is used, more labor and less capital is used. Less capital, less machines are used. More men, less machines. Some other production processes, more machines, less capital is used. For example, if you see the paddy production in 1960s, 70s, it was a labor-intensive production. Labor-intensive, more labor is used, less capital. Now it is becoming a capital-intensive activity. More and more, the machines are used, less capital. For example, for harvesting, those days, female labor was used. Now you have this the machines. These machines, different names are there. Sometimes it's called Bhutia, the tsunami. Different names are again. Huge machines are there. Within 1 hour's time, they can cut the paddy land. Maybe about 1 acre of paddy land can be processed, right? Whereas you have to employ about 10 or 12 female employees for 8 hours to cut and process this paddy land. Now you can say efficiency has improved when you have the capital goods. Right? These are called how to produce. Technology. This is about the technology. Technological question. Then for whom to produce? For whom to produce? for whom to produce, these goods and services. That is the three basic production questions: what to produce, what goods and services to produce. In the presence of scarcity, society has to choose how many TV sets, washing machines, cars, and every other goods and services it is going to produce. This leads us to an important concept. I will explain that. So, three production questions: what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce. These are the three production questions. I have explained these production questions: how to produce, for whom to produce these goods and services. First, we'll discuss the first question: what to produce those goods and services. How to produce, so the what to produce. The presence of scarcity of society has to choose how many TVs. If you produce TVs, how many TVs, washing machines, every other goods service is going to produce. When you produce something, you use inputs, factors of production to produce these for a TV set. So you can't use these factors of production to produce another goods. So therefore, we have a concept called opportunity cost. That's opportunity cost. What is opportunity cost? When more of one good is produced, resources are used up. These resources could have been used to produce alternative goods. Then what will happen? When you produce more TV sets, you have to cut down the production of washing machines. So one TV sets maybe 2 washing machines, or one TV sets maybe the one car, maybe the 10 washing machines. That is the opportunity cost. The cost of best foregone alternative. In the case of production, it is the how many other goods and services that has to be cut down to produce 1 unit of this good. To produce one TV, how many units of washing machines to be cut down? That is the opportunity cost. If you have to cut down 2 washing machines, that is the opportunity cost of one TV. For example, to produce one car, if you have to cut down around 50 washing machines, then the opportunity cost of producing a car is equal to 50 washing machines, something like that. Understand? Okay. So opportunity cost is a very important concept in economics. If someone asks me what is the most important concept in economics, if someone asks about what is the most important concept in chemistry or the physics, sometimes chemistry, you can say structure of the atom is the most important concept, right? History, contour diagrams may be most important concept, or the geography, something like that. So core concept is there. In economics, I might say the most important concept in economics is opportunity cost. Now here we discuss opportunity cost of producing an aeroplane, opportunity cost of producing a cars, the amount of other goods and services that has to be cut down. That is the opportunity cost. But in every human activity, there is an opportunity cost. Every human activity, there is an opportunity cost. That's very important, right? So we know that in physics, what is the Newton's law? Newton's law. Every action has an the equal and opposite action for an every action. That is the Newton's law in physics. You can say the Newton's law in economics is, in other words, it is the opportunity cost. Every human action has an opportunity cost. When you do something, you have to sacrifice something. So for example, now you are listening to this my lesson, my teaching, this session. Then you won't be able to do some other things. Maybe you will not be able to watch TV. You will not be able to go somewhere, visit a friend, or you will miss a good sleep. That I don't know whether you are sleeping or not. I can't say. Sometimes it is the case, right? So listening to this my lecture at this time, opportunity cost of listening to this lecture at this time is the number of hours of sleep that you lose, or number of TV times that you lose, or the visiting the friend's place. Now, when you calculate this opportunity cost of an human activity, you take all the alternatives for this activity. Listening to this my lesson, what are the alternatives? Studying the banking, studying the customer banking, or the playing a game, right? Computer game, or visiting a friend. Then you rank all these economic activities, and number one activity, most important activity is the cost of this, opportunity cost of this activity. In other words, opportunity cost on activity, the cost of best foregone activity. It varies. For some of you, maybe if I ask what is the opportunity cost of attending this class, listening to my lecture, someone say, okay, I will miss a good sleep. That is it. Another person say, I will not be able to, my opportunity cost is missing attending the washing things, right? Or doing marketing. So different individuals have different opportunity cost for this particular activity. It is, but it is a basic definition. It is the cost of best foregone alternative is the opportunity cost, right? When you produce goods, you have to cut down some other goods. That's opportunity cost. Opportunity cost, you have to understand. It is the most important concept in economics. Opportunity cost of marriage. That's opportunity cost of marriage. So you can think of what is the opportunity cost of marriage, right? So then someone can say higher studies. Once you get married, you not be able to study further, right? Or the freedom sometimes. Freedom. So different individuals are different answers. Every action, human action has an opportunity cost. It is the most important concept. Understand. So, for example, this is very important. Now you pay, let's say, around 50,000 rupees to follow this course, right? There's an opportunity cost of 50,000 rupees. If you don't study properly, if you don't concentrate properly, get through the exams, then waste of money. Opportunity cost of money of this 50,000. So your parents can finance your sisters or the brothers the education, right? So therefore, it is the opportunity cost of this 50,000. So, right, thank you. Then second basic production question is how to produce these goods and services, because the resources are limited. As I said, it's a question of technology. Man and machine ratio, man to man machine ratio. Also in the presence of scarcity, society must decide which resources or combination of resources to allocate to the production of various commodities. It is a question of technology. The society can use either labor intensive technology or capital intensive technology. Underline these two terms. For instance, in 1970s, the paddy cultivation used for more labor and less capital in the production of paddy, and today it has become more capital intensive production process, right? Last question, for whom to produce those goods and services? For whom to? If you produce space shuttles, no point of producing a space shuttle because there is no demand. If you produce start producing a Lamborghini cars, no point. There is no demand. The majority of people are poor. Well, income levels are very low. Therefore, we should not produce. Now, these days, production of rice is becoming a scarce good. The prices are rising. Government has controlled the prices. So the rice production may be a good thing. For whom to produce? Because the majority of people, they are middle income people. Our per capita income is around $4,000 per year. So then our people's income is very low. To the purchasing power is the key. So therefore, depending on the purchasing power, we have to get an idea about for whom to produce those goods and services. I will ask this question. Sorry, excuse me. For example, we don't produce space shuttles. Why is that? Can you think of? We don't. US produce the space shuttles. North Korea produce nuclear power, the products, right? Why don't you produce space shuttles? Another answer is opportunity cost of space shuttle is huge. The amount of other goods and services that has to cut down to produce, one space shuttle is huge. Therefore, we don't produce. But in US, they produce. Their opportunity cost is very low. For example, the cost of space shuttles roughly around $500 million US. $500 million US, more than that sometimes minimum. So we can't afford these 500 million, right? So I have to cut down the goods worth of 500 million. 500 million, huge. Sometimes we issue our sovereign bond to raise foreign money. we issue a bond amounted to $500 million, right? But US spent $500 million to produce one space shuttle, right? That is the difference. That the difference between the. That's why they are rich, we are poor. So therefore, for whom to produce those goods and services is a very important production question. Now, economic systems, because now to solve this basic production question, different societies have different arrangements, economic structures. The way that three production questions are answered is referred to as the allocation of resources. How to allocate resources among different activities. Different countries use different mechanisms or systems to allocate resources. There are basically three types of economic system: centrally planned economic system. Then you have the free enterprise economic system. Free enterprise economic system. Third one is mixed economies. What is centrally planned economic system? Everything is done by the government, no private sector. In a centrally planned economy or command economy, the government planning means to decide what will be produced, what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce. All the production questions are solved by the government planning ministry. Right? Consumer sovereignty is not there. Consumer's freedom is not there. Government say we need 100 engineers this day, the 200 doctors, only that. No more, not more than that. Right? 1,000 loaves of bread, the 700 metric tons of rice. That's all. So that is government planning mechanism is used. Sometimes you can say then consumers' choice is suppressed. Consumer sovereignty is suppressed by this the government activities. Now today's world, the very few economies has this nearly centrally planned economy. China, Cuba, they are not 100%. They have some private sector. Active private sector is there. Cuba, but majority of decisions are taken by the government. In a central planned economy or command economy, a government planning ministry side, right? How it will be produced and for whom it will produce. Further, in those countries, all the resources are owned by the government, underline that. And their prices are determined by the respective government. China and Cuba are the two countries at present that there is large measure of centrally direction and planning. Because I wanted to get this printed and maintain a separate file. Otherwise, or you can save in your computer. But better to have hard copy and the underline, highlight, and keep those things, because at the end of this lesson I have given some quiz, right? Then the free enterprise economic system, other extreme of the right, other extreme of the economic systems, free enterprise. Everything is done by the private sector. Economies in which government do not intervene are called free enterprise economic system or free markets. The resource allocation is determined by the independent decisions and actions of individual consumers and producers, known as price mechanisms, or the interaction between demand and supply. In the free enterprise economic system, prices are determined by the interaction between demand and supply. Then the wages are determined interaction between demand and supply, demand for labor and supply of labor. Then the price of loaf of bread, determined by the price of kilogram of rice. Everything is done by the market forces. Market forces are free. It is called free market. But it is the resources allocation determined by the independent decisions and actions of individual consumers and producers, known as price mechanism. Underline price mechanism. The interaction, demand and supply. US, Canada, UK and Australia, they are the example that rely heavily on price mechanism for resource allocation. Allocate resources among different the goods and services, production of goods and services. Free enterprise economic system. They are not 100%, but nearly they close to that 10. For example, if you take this economic system, you have the free enterprise economic system. The other end, you have the centrally planned economic system, CPE. So the China, Cuba, Singapore, US, Japan descend. In between, a large number of system structures, they are all called the mixed economies, market economies, right? Then in a mixed economy, the government and the private sector interact in solving basic production questions. For example, Sri Lanka, we have a mixed economy. We don't have 100% free enterprise or 100% centrally planned. We have private sector buses, government buses, private schools, government schools. Some decisions are taken by the private bus service operators, some are by the government, bus operators, government, the transport department, railway department. Then it's a combination of these two activities. Economic activities, economic decisions, problems are solved by the interaction between both private and the government sector, right? Some such decisions are taken by the government and some are by the private sector. The government use their annual budget. That is important. How does the government use the what is the mechanism that government use to allocate resources? Budget, annual budget. So the budget is usually supposed to come every year, November 6th. Last year we didn't have a budget, November 6th. So that is this problem prop up. Now people are talking about we need a budget. Budget estimates have exceeded the budget estimates. So some people ask, some group of politicians, some parties ask, okay, president to convene the parliament and just to get the approval of this financial expenses. But the president, according to constitutions, president's argument is, the other party's argument is, no, it is not necessary. We can spend, your president has a decree because we have already dissolved the parliament. These are the activities. You can follow these things, right? Now, this is actually the government. Anyway, in the normal circumstances, government use budget. How much for education? How much for the highways? How much for the health, right? Hospitals. These are the government budget. But the private sector use price mechanism. The private sector use the price mechanism for the sale. Now, for example, these days, private sector is allocating more and more resources to produce face masks, right? Surgical masks, right? Produce ventilators, right? That's a demand. Demand is there. Demand may be coming from hospitals or the government or the private sector, private hospitals. So they know that. Then they allocate resources. Price mechanism is used. Demand and supply forces are used to produce these goods and services. Most countries are mixed economies, though some are close to centrally planned economic system. As I said, some are the free enterprise economic system, right? Then another classification of goods. In studying economics, it is important to distinguish positive and normative economics. Positive, one of the classifications of economics, positive and normative. Once we finish this lesson, you can ask questions. There's an option to ask questions. While I am discussing, I'm required to, the first time I am using is the app. In the meantime, you can intervene and ask question. I think you have to wait till the session is over, then ask question. We will see. We'll discuss. Right? I'll ask him. Yes. Anyway, we'll see. Then the positive versus normative. What is positive? Positive statements show the cause and effect of certain economic policy. Cause and effect of certain economic policy. If you don't maintain the social distancing, you will get caught with COVID-19. If you don't stick to these health, the advisors, doctors' advisors, that is the effect. That is the result. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. So that is the cause and effect. For example, if the government cuts fertilizer subsidy to the farmer, then the fertilizer application to agriculture crop will decrease. If there is no subsidy, farmers will not apply enough fertilizer to the, that is a fact. If you don't maintain social distancing, 1 meter distance, then there's a possibility of the infecting the COVID. Right? That is the cause and effect. Cause and effect, right? It's a positive statement. The aim of positive economics is to explain how society makes decisions about consumption, production, and investment. Normative economics, in addition to these facts, you give your own judgments, value judgments. If you don't maintain social distancing, you will get caught with the COVID. Therefore, maintain the social distances. Therefore, everybody should be requested to maintain social distances. If you take a whole statement, that is positive. That is a normative. If you don't maintain the social distancing, you will get caught with COVID-19. That is a positive. Now I can extend that to normative statement. If you don't maintain the social distancing, you will get caught the COVID-19. Government has to spend more money for quarantine purposes. That is the whole statement. Is government no, that is also positive. Then how should we make that normative? Normative means you give your own judgments. If you don't maintain social distances, you will get caught with COVID. Therefore, we should maintain social distances is desirable. Government should requested people to maintain social distancing. That is the whole statement is normative. Your judgment. Government might say, okay, no, okay, it's up to you. Now government request. That is the whole thing is the normative. Let's see another example. Normative economics offers recommendation based on personal judgments. For example, the government must give fertilizer subsidy to each and every farmer in the country. It's a normative statement as it embedded the personal judgments. One can say government has a problem. These days, government has a very difficult problems in the budgeting, allocating resources. They don't have enough resources. Then they can't give the fertilizer subsidy to each and every farmer. Another person can no. It is must. Judgments are there. Another example. Elderly people have very high medical expenses. That is positive. That is true. Your father, your mother, the grandmother, grandfather, they have a high medical expense. That is a fact. That is positive. Now we can extend that. Elderly have very high medical expenses compared to rest of the population. Therefore, government should subsidize the health bills of the aged. Personal judgments. One can say, no, government should not subsidize. The health bill, they have to have your own social security system, the insurance system, they should not subsidize. That is, whole statement is normative. Elderly have very high medical expenses compared to the rest of the population. Therefore, government should subsidize the whole the health bills of the aged. Whole statement is normative, but up to that point. Part of this is positive. Understand? That is normative. Your judgments are there. Then another classification of the subject, micro versus macro. The field of economics traditionally divided into two broad subfields, micro and macro. Micro, small, macro, big things. Microeconomics is you see the economy through a microscope. You see things. If you have done biology, then you can say when you see things through a microscope, you can say small things. Consumer, behavior of a consumer, behavior of a firm, behavior of one market for rice, behavior of market for fish, behavior of hospital services, right? These are the micro issues. Macro, we see the economy through a telescope. Then you can see big things, unemployment, economic growth, balance of payment, government budget, big things, right? Whole picture. The branch of economics that deals with the economic activities of individual consumers and producers, a group of consumers and producers known as markets. It is like seeing, Buddha. They have gone. I'm sorry, I'm just disturbing you. Right. Anyway, so it is like seeing the economy through a microscope. Micro. A microeconomist might study the effects of price control of rice, the impact of foreign competition on Sri Lanka's shoe manufacturing industry. Now in our shoe market, shoe manufacturers are always complaining they can't compete with the Chinese, the cheap Chinese product. So therefore they complain. They ask government to either to ban Chinese imports or give some subsidies to their production activities, right? So these are it's a one particular market, shoe market for shoes, manufacturing industry. or effects of minimum wage policy on hotel workers. That is a micro issue. Now with this COVID-19, lots of micro issues are cropping up. For example, some hotels completely lay off their employment workers. Some hotels say, okay, we will give you a no pay leave. No pay leave, you have the job, but you are not paid. Some other hotels say, okay, we will pay you a minimum wage around 15,000 rupees. You need not to come, right? That is different arrangements are there. Then that is microeconomic analysis. For example, I know one of my friends told me that in Maldives, one of the Sri Lankans on the restaurants are there. It is there. The management asks all the employees to, okay, take no pay leave. After 4 months time, 6 months time, you can come back. You have the job. That is something, right? Okay. But some other things, if you are laid off, completely redundant, that is a serious problem, right? Okay, these are microeconomic issues. Macro, the branch of economics that deals with economic aggregates or the economy as a whole, especially unemployment, inflation, national income, government budget. Macro, it is like seeing the economy through a telescope. A macroeconomist might study the effects of borrowing by the government, changes over time in the economy's overall unemployment, or policies to promote growth. Right. Discuss now what is now in this case we have to take down some notes also. What is the unemployment? Before we discuss the unemployment, we have discussed from the population definition of unemployment. I believe you can see my diagram. You take the population, country's population, country's population, the around 22 million. Then we can divide this population into two: labor force and not in labor force, NLF. Take down these things. Population, country's population, you divide into two: those who are in the labor force, those who are not in the labor force. Labor force again we divide into two. For example, who are the people in the labor force? Who are the people not in the labor force? Let's discuss not in the labor force. Full-time students, they are not in the labor force. Minors, small kids. Then the pensioners, right? Housewives, they are not in the labor force. Then they are not in the labor force. For example, if your mother not working, she's a housewife. She is classified not in the labor force. She is classified as a person, individual, not in the labor force. Right? The labor force again divided into employed plus unemployed. Employed plus labor force is equal employed. Please take down this unemployed. Employed plus unemployed. Total population is equal to labor force plus not in labor force. Right? Now, interesting thing is now this now most of the housemaids. Now, what is most of the housemaids in the Kuwait? They are coming back. The majority housemaids, right? Qatar, most of these Lebanon, the people work there. Sri Lankan housemates work there. They are coming. Government has made arrangements to bring them back to this country. The Kuwait has requested Sri Lankan government to please take this your people, right? We will pay you. Kuwait government is paying for this their own flights. Their own flights and take these people, bring these people to the country, right? But the thing is nowadays you can see when you watch this TV, you can see most of these Kuwait coming from Kuwait infected with COVID, right? That is a serious issue now at the moment we are facing. Not only Sri Lanka, but also other countries. India is has employed around 10 flights to bring the Indians in other countries. Bangladesh has employed, has used 15 flights to bring their people from other countries. That is a very serious issue. But can't help. These people say, those countries say, okay, sometimes they are maybe illegally staying there, overstaying people are there, but then that is a problem. What happens is, now those housemates, before going Middle East, they are housewives. They are not in the labor force. They are not in the labor force. They were not in the labor force, Sri Lankan labor force. They are NLF. Not in labor force. They go back, then they come back. Then after that, sometime they have to be in the not in labor force, or they might ask for jobs, right? That is, they want to work. They want to work. That is, then they are unemployed. They think, okay, they should get jobs. Before they leave the country, they are not in the labor force. That you have to understand. This housemates, right? But the problem is, now the thing is, unemployment rate is defined as number of unemployed divided by labor force, size of the labor force, into 100. For example, let's say the number of unemployed labor force is labor force is 100. 4 people are unemployed. Then what will happen? Our unemployment rate is 4%. 4%. Actually, this is around 4%, 4.1, 4.2% in 2019. Now, what do you think? What will happen to unemployment rate in Sri Lanka these days? Will increase, will rise because of this COVID problem. Not only in the Sri Lanka, US, they have estimated unemployment rate will be around to 10 to 15%. New Zealand, 10 to 15%. Sri Lanka, we don't have estimate, but anyway, we'll have a problem of the unemployment problem. Unemployment rate might not stay at 4%, 5%, 10%, 15%. We know so many problems are there. At least in the long run, there will be some settle down. If the problem settle down, COVID problem settle down, our unemployment rate might go down. But so overshoot of an unemployment rate, what will happen? Around 4%, 4%. Now all of a sudden it overshoot. We don't know. It's how long will it take to settle. That is the unemployment rate over time. Definitely it is 4%. Sometimes it might go up to 10%, 15%. But anyway, in the long run, it will settle down. I think come to the same path or sometime in between, right? And over time, unemployment rate, overshooting of unemployment, definitely in the short run, it will go up. That is the serious issue in Sri Lanka now at the moment we are facing, right? Okay. Excuse me, I'll call one of these helpers. Maybe thing is I might be a bit fast, right? But I just want to go through this the note again, and next time you can ask any questions if you have. But these are basic questions. I believe most of you have done economics for your A levels or the CIMA, chartered or degree. Sometimes you might have a basic idea about this. Those who have done science, they don't have any idea about this, the basic concept, but these basic concepts are not that difficult. I wanted to go through some of this. Next time I will give you the reference, the Central Bank Annual Report, and another textbook written by the Introduction to Economics by Mr. CPA Karunadilaka, Director General of IBSL, and I will give the list of these references. And also, please start reading one of the good the magazines, The Economist, or sometime the maybe a daily Financial Times, daily FT, Financial Times in Sri Lankan case, or the Sunday Times. Now read these things. There are lots of economic issues. COVID issue, what are the macro issues, what are the micro issues? Then please start reading. Cultivate the habit of reading at least one article, one paper, understand one economic concept, one issue, then per day. That's very important because the economy lots of jargons, different the terms are used. Those who are not familiar with this Those who are not familiar with these terms, you have to be familiar with these terms, right? Okay. Right.
Excuse me,
Let's
sir.
start
The
reading
whiteboard.
this one of these
Excuse me, sir.
newspapers or the magazines. Economics magazine is good. Central Bank annual report is good. Recently they published April. They published Central Bank annual report. And next time I will give you the reading list. Excuse me. Other issue is the unemployment rate. We know the percentage of population, percentage of labor force without jobs is called unemployment. For example, Sri Lanka, if you see the annual report, it is around 4%. Now, these days, unemployment rate is very high in Spain, Greece, Venezuela, Brazil. Unemployment rate is very high, but in every country, there will be overshoot will be there. Sri Lanka, we have 4%. It might go up to 15%. 20%, more and more people will be unemployed, right? Can't find jobs. Maybe it's a short run. We don't know how long will it take to tapering down, the achieve this equilibrium level of unemployment in the long run. But still, it's a problem to all the countries in the world, right? It is rising. Macroeconomics, then other branch is the macroeconomics. So other concept is inflation. What is inflation? Inflation is, please take down this.
Excuse me, sir.
Inflation rate. Now we know if you take any economy, there are a large number of goods and services, millions of goods and services. So a large number of prices, millions of prices, price of bed, price of rice, price of haircut, price of hospital services, price of dal, so price of the chilies, large number of prices. You take certain period, this price increases, some are coming down, some are fixed. These days the rice prices are the control at the 90 rupees or 90 rupees, but there's a control price. If you market now, at the moment we discuss the free market, the price move up, down, constant like that. But then you define a term called price level. Price level to represent these millions of
Excuse me, sir.
to compile, economy can compile the price level, one index, that is called price index. Price index. So the price level is represented by the price index. Now in Sri Lanka,
Excuse me, sir.
there are a large number of price indices. The Sri Lanka, the consumer price index, CPI. Earlier we have CCPI, Colombo Consumers Price Index, WPI, Wholesale Price Index, right? Different countries have different new Consumer Price Index, National CPI, Consumer Price Index. So using price index, we measure the price level in the economy. So the percentage increase in this price level is called inflation. For example, let's say the April, May. NCPI 100, then this is May, value is 105, then we say 5% increase in the price index. So inflation rate between the April to May is 5%. Percentage rise in the price index is called inflation. Right? That is inflation good or bad? That's a very important question. Inflation, what is the desirable level of inflation? 1%, 2%, 3%, 10%, 15%. So you can't say inflation, zero inflation. Zero inflation is good or bad? It is bad. What does that mean? Price levels constant, bread price constant last year, this year. Rice price constant last year, this year. Paddy price constant last year, this year. Wages constant. So therefore, it is not so good. Producer's point of view, you can't have profit margins, right? So that is
Excuse me, sir.
bad. Producers are sad when inflation is zero. Very high inflation. Consumers are sad because the prices are rising very fast. So that is also bad.
Excuse me, sir.
So therefore, moderate inflation. What is the desirable moderate level of inflation to to check, to get this moderate desirable level of inflation, a country has to do research and decide around less than some. Most of the things people think is less than 10%, 6 to 7% is desirable. So sometimes it is 2 to 3% is desirable. So ours is around now these days around 7%, 8% inflation is there. But in some countries, inflation rate is very high. Venezuela, 15%, 20% inflation rate. So inflation is extremes bad. So some kind of inflation, the level of inflation is desirable. Tolerance level is there. Some moderate inflation should be there. Not very high inflation, not zero level inflation. Then what are the impact of when inflation is rising? What will happen? Cost of living is rising. People living standard decreases. That is one thing. When inflation is rising, prices of goods, prices of services, wages are rising. Investors cannot project, implement their investment plans. Uncertainty is there. So inflation is bad. So highly fluctuate. That is the one thing. When prices are rising, when inflation is rising, tomorrow 10%, day after tomorrow 15% or 20%, like that. When prices are rising very fast, will people consume or save? Definitely they will consume. So no point of savings. You consume today, consumption will increase, will go up. There's no point of the saving. Therefore, savings will go down when there is inflation. Country savings will go down very high under the very high inflation scenario. People will tend to consume more. Savings will go down. Because what is consumption, savings, income, the relationship Y equals in classes. Part of your income is consumed, balance is saved. So when prices are rising, when there's high inflation, people consume more. Savings will go down. Savings goes down, right? That is one of the bad effects of the investors cannot predict implement the investment plans. Then what will happen? The consumers cannot predict their consumption plans. The cost of living will go down. That is another thing. These are the negative consequence of inflation. Real interest rate will go down. Real interest rate, because if the
Excuse me, sir. The whiteboard is not clear.
let's say interest rate is 10%. Interest rate is 10%. If you deposit 100 rupees today, at the end of the annual interest rate, at the end of the year, you can get the 110. No inflation. If the prices are rising at the rate of, if let's assume that item that costs 100 rupees, at the end of the year, price is 108 rupees. So you are getting from the interest, the bank will pay you 10 rupees, additional 10 rupees. But what will happen? Goods are increased at the rate of 8%. So the thing is expensive. New price is 8%, 8 rupees, 108 rupees. So the 8 rupees increase in the goods prices, you are getting on the benefit of 10. The real gain is 2. That is called real interest rate. Then what will happen? When inflation is increasing, real interest rate will go down. Real interest rate will go down. That is the nominal minus inflation is the real. Real inflation will go. That is also bad, right? That's all. Now these days, what is happening to Sri Lanka's the interest rate, nominal interest rate is coming down. Fix the deposit rate, 1 year fixed deposit is around 13%, 12%, 11%. Nowadays it's around 6%, 7%, 8%. Very low. Fixed the nominal rate is going down. Then what will happen? If the inflation is rising, sometimes a real interest rate might be negative. If the inflation is 8%, nominal interest rate 10%, real rate is 2%. That is something. Suppose inflation is 12%, 15%, nominal interest rate is 10%, your real interest rate will be negative, minus. You don't get any real gain from, because when the inflation is rising. Goods are rising at the rate of 15%, but your benefit increasing at the rate of 10%. Therefore, you are losing your interest rate. Real gain is less, 5% less. Suppose inflation rate is less than the nominal interest rate, you are gaining something. that example, it is 2% gain is the real interest rate, right? So inflation, inflation is good, bad. Inflation encourage consumption, discourage savings. Inflation discourage the investors, high inflation, investors. But the moderate inflation is good for both consumers and producers, especially for producers. Producers might be happy, very high inflation, but consumer demand will go down, right? Those things happen. Then national income. Next macroeconomic concept is GDP or national income. You're right. National income. National income is defined as another name for this: national income, national product, national expenditure. Generally, is called gross domestic product, gross domestic income, gross domestic expenditure. Let's say there are three measures to measure the national income: GDP, gross domestic product, production. What does that mean? The value of the amount of goods and services produced in the economy in a given period of time. Now we see, if you take an economy in a year, millions of goods and millions of services are produced. Large number of goods, large number of services are produced: tea, rubber, coconut, mine export crops, then the construction activities, tourism activities, lots of economic, manufacturing, retail trading, lots of economic activities produced. Then monetary value of these goods and services produced in the economy in a given year is called the gross domestic product. Gross domestic product, right? Then what will happen? Excuse me. I'm tired. When you have a normal class, we discuss lots of interactions. Now these lessons are a bit boring, right? No interactions. You all can see me, but still you can't see. Sometimes I can't see you all, right? In normal teaching, we walk through these classes, we ask questions. Sometimes we crack some jokes, right? So now this is a boring way of teaching, right? Anyway, I don't like, but can't help. Okay. Right. Then national income, gross domestic product. Now we have some idea about, take down. It is the value of goods and services produced in the economy in a given period of time. The value of goods and services produced in the economy in a given period of time. Next time I will give you the definition of this. Right. Okay. Please bear with me. Actually, the next time I will definitely do some remedial measure for this one. Start reading these things. Then the government budget. Government budget. What is government? Another macroeconomic concepts. Government budget. You have the government and the private sector. In the mixed economy, we have the government and the private sector. We call it public sector, pure public sector, and the private sector. Private sector. Right? Then what will happen? Government, we said government takes decision with regard to production, allocation of resources using their budget. What is budget? Government budget, you have mainly three parts: revenue, expenditure, deficit, or surplus. Revenue, expenditure, deficit, or surplus. Then government raise revenue using taxes. Government as an entity very lazy. Government doesn't live on other people's money. Taxes. Tax is the main source of the revenue. Non-tax revenue is there. Non-tax revenue, central bank or government institution, they might transfer their annual revenue to the consolidated budget. But mainly it is the tax money. So then government expenditure mainly you have to pay salaries and wages of the government employees, doctors, engineers, teachers. Then you have to pay transfer payment, pension payments, samurgi payment, the distribution of free textbooks, right? These are the transfers. The other payment, other expenditure item is the interest payment of our foreign loans and domestic loans. So these are the three core, the main components of the expenditure. So therefore, expenditure, revenue. Generally, what is happening in Sri Lankan? What are the observers? Expenditures, expenditure exceed the revenue. So therefore, there's a deficit, government deficit. Revenue less than the expenditure. These days, especially these days, tax income, what will happen? Most of the government, private sector institutions have been shut down. We don't get any exports. We no imports also. When people import, government takes import tax, import duty. Now recently, the government issued, treasury issues a circular banning certain the items, importing of certain items, luxury items, cars, vehicles, right? In that circular gas notification, there are certain items that have been banned importing because of our foreign exchange problem. So the huge drain of this foreign exchange, important foreign exchange is going out of the country. Therefore, government take decisions very reasonable. Most of the countries have taken this decision, implemented this kind of policies because of this the crisis period. Countries have import restrictions. Unnecessary imports are cut. Necessary imports, you can't choice, you don't have a choice, you don't have a choice of importing fertilizer, importing sugar, importing dal, importing rice. Rice we don't have, not that much of imports. Sometimes big onion, potatoes sometimes, yes. So consumer item, food items, imports, you can't say no, but some luxury items can be said. So therefore, when government ban imports, stop importing these things, government loses revenue. Import taxes, they lose. At the same time, the what will happen? The government, private institutions, hotels, big hotels, activities have been disturbed by this COVID-19. As a result, they don't have activities. So the quarterly government revenue estimates will go down. Tax revenue will go down. So deficit might increase. Further increase in government deficit. Then government deficit, when there's a deficit, they have to finance. Deficit financing. How do they finance? I said they don't have any other way to finance borrowing. They borrow. They borrow money from the private sector. Their money borrow from the international institutions, the foreign borrowings or the domestic borrowings, or they can borrow money from the central bank. They can borrow money from the ETF. So government, to finance this deficit, they have to borrow. Borrowing is the main the source of financing the deficit, right? You can get foreign loans or the foreign grants, or domestic loans, or the domestic from the banking sector, from the central bank. You can get these borrowings. So this is we have a separate lecture on government budget. Detailed discussion is there in the macroeconomics. These are just an introduction. It is like seeing the economy through a telescope. So we discussed three main concepts: unemployment, inflation, national income, government budget. Now, for example, using this national income, we can calculate per capita income, per person income. You take the national income GDP divided by the mid-year population of 21 million. So total GDP divided by population is called per capita income. Per capita income. Eka Pudgala Adayam. Per capita income is around $4,000 per person. For example, if you say US, Japan, it's around $44,000, $24,000 per capita income, $36,000 per capita income. In Japan, $28,000 per capita income. Ours is 4,000. So therefore, we are classified as not a poor country, middle income, high middle income country, the low middle income country, high income country, not a very high income country. So therefore, according to classification, our position is around middle income country, $4,000 per capita income. So the per capita income is a very important indicator. If you rank order countries according to the per capita income, from low per capita income to high per capita income, it is the ranking of living standard, the quality of life. Is a ranking of quality of life. Low per capita, very high per capita income. Japan, literacy rate 100%, infant mortality 0, the life expectancy 85, 90. Then very low per capita income, literacy rate is very low, life expectancy is very low, infant mortality is very high. Especially one of the developed the African countries, I can't remember exactly the name of this African country, the poorest country in the world, very high unemployment rate, life expectancy is around 45 years, 45 years. Whereas in Japan, it's around 80, 85 years, right? Literacy rate, the literacy rate, very poor country, poorest country, literacy rate is around the 20, 30, Japan, 100%. But in Sri Lanka, I didn't discuss about Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is called outlier. Outlier means according to our per capita income, if you compare the countries with the same per capita income, our social indicators are much better, sometimes closer to the developed countries. So that's why economists classified Sri Lanka's the performance, Sri Lanka's position as outlier, right? Outlier. Per capita income, the outlier, the per capita income, in terms of per capita income, we should be in some other lower level, but we are at a higher level. So therefore, the economists say our person is then right. Okay, it's a budget. Macroeconomists might study the effects of borrowing by the government to change. Right. Okay. Now we'll come to this next session. Economic models. Two economic models we discussed. Number one, production possibility frontier. You all are familiar with this. If you have done A levels or the CIMA chartered this PPF, production possible frontier, is a very key concept. Another is the circular flow diagram. I will introduce these models. Economic models allow economists to describe how the various sectors, players, and transactions are interrelated. It's a simple model. Economic model is what like this? It's like a street map. Economic model. For example, what is a model? Economic model. For example, if I want to travel, drive from Colombo to Anuradhapura, right? These days, still, as you are living in Colombo, we are living in Kampa. You are not inter-provincial, inter-districts are not allowed. But anyway, in some case, and the normal circumstances, let's say country is fully open up, then you can say you can travel from Colombo to Anuradhapura. When you travel, you take ride from the Kandy Road, Varakapala, then go to the Kurunegala, Dambulla, Kakirava, Anuradhapura. Now the street map, everything is there. If you go to Google, you can see the map. But in this Google map, they don't indicate small boutiques where the police station might be there. Small boutiques are not there. Small roads may not be there, right? It is a approximation to a reality. It's a good thing. Good guide. Street map is a good guide. You use a good guide or Google guide. It's a good thing. You don't say shouldn't say the very small boutique. It is not there. So the model is an approximation to the reality, approximation to the actual situation. It's not 100% true. Lots of things are missing, but it's a guide, good guide. So model is like economic models. Economy is used to explain the behavior of economies, agents in the economy, explain the behavior of economic activities, explain the behavior of the over time behavior of the economy, right? So it's a model. Economic models allow economists to describe how the various sectors, players, and transactions are interrelated. Consumers, producers, investors are interrelated. Government is there, private sector is there, they are interrelated. It is an approximation to the real situation. And may not include all details. As I said, small boutiques are not included in the Google map, street map. All details about the working of the system, but help to increase the understanding of the working of the given system. Two basic models are presented in this section. A, production possibility frontier. It's a model. It's an instrument. It's a tool to explain the economic behavior. Then the circular flow diagram. Let's first discuss. Right. We have half an hour, 2 hours. No, right. Circular flow diagram, the production possibility frontier. Right. Now, what is production possibility frontier? Most economic models, unlike the circular flow diagram here. PPF shows for each level of the output of one good, the maximum amount of the other good that can be produced. It is an important tool, very important, underline this tool, that helps economists to illustrate the economic concepts. Now we have discussed scarcity. We have discussed economic growth. We have discussed opportunity cost. We have to get a resource allocation, unemployment of resources. All these economic concepts, important economic concepts, can be illustrated using the production possibility frontier. That's why it is important. It's a very simple economic tool. When you draw the production possibility frontier for economy, there are certain assumptions. We don't assume millions of goods and services. We take a simple model. There are two goods in the economy, 4 workers. Then using fixed number of factors of production, fixed number of goods, we draw this diagram to the economy. This is called production possibility frontier. Just to understand these concepts. For example, if you draw PPF for economy, for example, production possibility frontier is like this. Good one, let's say food and clothing. The production possibility frontier. So outside combination cannot be achieved. This is the maximum frontier. This is called curve, sometimes called boundary, production possibility boundary, production possibility curve, frontier. Well, you cannot go, economy cannot go beyond. Is that? For example, economy cannot produce this combination of goods, food, clothing. Scarcity of resources is the reason. Points outside the production possibility frontier indicate the scarcity of resources. Scarcity of resources. It is generally concave. Outside the point. Inside, they can achieve. You can get this combination. But you need not to employ all the resources, all the labor, all the capital, all the land. Inefficient allocation of resources. Unemployed, some resources are unemployed. Unemployment of resources. Scarcity of resources. Resources are not enough. Unemployment or inefficient allocation of resources. Points on the PPF, efficient. Efficient. These combinations, you have to employ all the resources to produce these goods and services. All the resources, right? Then, if you are here, this combination, if you want to increase food by this amount, you have to cut down other good. To increase output of food, you have to cut down the output of the clothing. That is, opportunity cost of this much of food is this much of clothing. When you increase this by 100, maybe you have to cut down this by 90. Opportunity cost of 100 units of food is equal to 90 units of clothing. You have to cut down. Understand? Opportunity cost. So you can explain economic growth. If resources increase, availability economy increases, then you can produce this. Production possibility frontier shifts, outward shift. in the PPF. Shift outside. Economic growth. So therefore, two things. Scarcity of resources, points outside the PPF indicate scarcity of resources. Shift in the PPF, outward shift in the PPF indicate the economic growth. Opportunity cost I explained. Opportunity cost of 100 units of food is, I have diagrams we will explain. The opportunity cost. Efficient allocation means on the PPF. If the output of these two goods, we assume two goods, no? On the PPF, there are efficient allocation of factors of resources. You cannot, if you are on the PPF, if you want to increase the output of one good, definitely you have to cut down the output of the other. That's opportunity cost. If you want to increase the output of one good, you have to cut down the output of the other. If you are on the PPF. So therefore, there is opportunity cost always. Unemployment, P of FOP inside the PPF. Inside. Points inside the PPF indicate the unemployed resource, inefficient allocation of resources. In simple terms, it is also called the PPP, PPC, like that. Right. Now, these are some of the properties of the PPF. Properties. PPC is concave to the origin. Concavity implies the increasing opportunity cost. I'll explain this again. The points outside the PPC is shown underline, shows the scarcity of resources of FOP, factors of production, outside. Those combinations cannot be achieved, output combination, because of the scarcity of resources. Inside the PPC shows unemployed resources or inefficient production levels. Some you need not to employ all the resources. Some are unemployed. Inefficient allocation of resources. On the PPF, to get points on the PPF, you have to allocate all the resources available to this. For example, in Sri Lanka, we have unemployment because we are inside the PPF. Right? Suppose we can increase the resource available, labor, land, capital goods, machines. If you can increase these things, production possibility frontier shifts. So how to illustrate the economic growth? When economy is growing, when capital is increasing, resources are rising, you can have more and more production, economy is growing, outward shift in the production possibility frontier. Growth. Outward shift in the PPF shows the economic growth, and hence the inward shift shows the economic contraction. Right? I'm tired. You are the I have to make some adjustment because we don't have interactions now. I don't ask questions. Anyway, let's see. Next time we'll do some adjustment. Now the shift in the PPF is the growth. I'll give some examples. Remember this. Okay, good example is recently you can take now US. In US, more than 100,000 people have been killed, died from this COVID-19. Labor, shrink in the labor force. Sri Lanka only 9 or 10 people have killed, died. Then the European countries, around 60,000, 65 US, 60,000, 65,000 killed. Labor force is shrinking, falling. What will happen if you draw production possibility frontier before and after the COVID? Before COVID, the PPF for the US economy is here. After COVID, now what will happen? It is gradually shifting inwards. Resources are falling. Right? Tsunami, 2000, when is tsunami? 2001 or 2004, no? December 26, we had tsunami. Around 40,000 people were killed by tsunami. Lots of capital goods, fishing goods, both capital and labor resources were badly affected. 40,000 people killed. Around millions of worth of fishing boats are destroyed. Then what will happen? If you draw PPF before and after the tsunami, what will happen? The PPF shifts inward shift in the PPF after the tsunami, right? Okay. What was it? දෙකක් නේද පුතා? දෙකයි මම 12:30 නවත්තන්නන්නේ 12:30. Then right now another example, interesting example, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Second World War and the end of the 1945, the last few months of the Second World War, US bombed two big cities of Japan. Hiroshima first day, Nagasaki next day. Around 300,000, 400,000 people were killed. Instantly, these cities went to ashes. Ashes. You might have seen some diagrams, right? If you have visited Japan, you can see there are some museums. To see this, what happened to these two cities. Now, still, these nuclear bombs, have this bad effects. Still, some people are there with some deformed babies born. Still, the side effects are there. It's a very cruel thing. The war is the main reason. What happened to the Japan is still this. If you visit this museum, Hiroshima Museum, you can see the damage that happened to these two cities. Instantly, they went to ashes. Big buildings, ashes. Right. So therefore, if you draw production possibility frontier before and after this bombing or US bombing, definitely production possibility frontier will shift, inward shift in the PPF. Both capital and labor decrease. Okay. Now let's see the diagrams. General shape is this. Concave PPF implies increasing opportunity. Increasing opportunity cost means this is the opportunity cost of the first 100, second 100, third 100 amount of clothing that has to cut down to get increased food by this much. Fourth 100 to get this increased food this much. Fifth 100 opportunity cost of this. So therefore, opportunity cost, if you move from this point to that, opportunity cost will be increasing. Scapping. So opportunity concave implies increasing opportunity cost. Then the next one, clothing. This is inefficient allocation of FOP, point A, unemployed resources. Efficient allocation, point B. This is point B, should be point B. Point B. Point C, scarcity of FOP. Scarcity. Now, these are the concepts that can be illustrated, economic concepts that can be illustrated using PPF. Next one. Shift. As I discussed, the COVID, due to COVID, definitely shift down, inward shift. Tsunami shifts upwards. Tsunami also the inward shift. So if economy is growing, if you can increase number of workers, number of machines, new technology, then that will contribute to the increase in product output of both goods. Then production frontier shifts, outward shift in the PPF, right? So the sources of growth is increase in labor, increase in capital, increase in technology. These are the sources of economic growth. I think I have given that. Right, okay. Then the circular flow diagram, second model. All macroeconomy is taken, and then you discuss the model. We'll discuss this in detail. We have separate lecture on the national accounts. So this is just to present this model, the production possibility frontier one model, circular flow diagram. Now this model, you have three sectors: households, government, firms, and foreign business. Household sector, government sector, business sector, and the foreign sector. Four sectors. It is called four-sector model. Four sectors: household, government, business, and foreign. Three markets. What are the markets? Goods market, labor market, then you have the financial market. Three markets. The real economy, You have goods market, market for rice. Then labor market, market for labor. Financial markets are there. In the financial market, there are banks, leasing companies, primary dealers, development banks, insurance companies, financial market, financial intermediaries. Activities, production, consumption, and investment. This is a full model about the economy, actual model. There are production activity, the investment activity, consumption activity, and imports and exports, economic activities. Right. Now, you can go through this one. I have given the TRH, TRC, SH, SG, SC. I have defined these terms. Please compare this with the diagram and check the diagram and understand. These are macroeconomy. Even Sri Lanka, we have these all four sectors: household sector, government, then the business sector is there, foreign sector is there. Sectors. Then you have the markets. You have goods market, market for factors of production, factor market, then the financial markets. Within this market, within the goods market, there are a large number of players. Within the financial market, large number of players. Commercial banks, the development banks, leasing companies, insurance companies, lots of, right? Then, then what will happen? Okay, now this is the end of this lesson, the very basic things we discussed. Now I have given the practice questions. Every lesson at the end of this practice, I have given these practice lessons. Practice the questions, the very brief. You can answer, you can say, or what is opportunity cost. First one is the brief answers. Second one, classify normative and positive, between normative, positive. Third one, micro, macro, classify these statements, define the followings. Then the some detail stories there. Then they ask questions. Please go through this. Next time I will discuss the answers to this one. This quiz is a quiz, short question paper. First we will start this week one questions. Solve these questions. After that, we will start the second session, the lesson 2. Today we have this one. Okay. Now the last 15 minutes, I will open up for the question. Questions means I want your comments about my lecturing, because this is the first day. No, I continuously spoke. You are not. You didn't have any chance to ask questions. Number one. Comments about my the lecturing. Am I fast or too slow? So what should be done? And number two, if you have any clarification questions about this the lesson, you can ask. Third one, definitely you can ask, but I know the questions. That question is not clear. Board is not clear. Definitely institution IBSL should solve that problem next time. I give that assurance. Otherwise, I can't have this interaction with you. That's definitely it's a big problem. Now, first it's open up. You can unmute your mic and tell me any questions, suggestions about my lecturing. Please tell me one at a time. Yes, you can have this. It's open up now. Okay, should I discuss? You can unmute and ask question, no problem. Then I can hear you. I can hear you. Please unmute one of you and tell me your suggestions. One of you, either girl or a boy. Language I don't mind, even Sinhala or English I don't mind. Talk to me, please. Tell me. I can't see your faces, beautiful faces. But I just want to hear you from unmute your mic and talk to me, please. Unmute and talk to me. How should I unmute you? Yeah. Amiska, ask me a question. Yeah. Question thing. Yeah. Ask any question, please. Can you hear me? If one of you tell me, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? You see? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Anyway, next week we'll have some formal good arrangement about this. So good luck, have a good day, and next week we will yeah, Janani Prabodha, yeah. I'll leave the meeting. Anyway, yes, okay. Thank you very much for attending this first session. There are some problems. Next week, I look forward to discuss, having a good session, fruitful discussion. Go through this quiz, short question paper. Next time, I will first discuss this question paper and start the lesson number 2. Okay. Thank you very much for attending this class. Now I will stop presenting this one. Thank you.